That speech went on for some time. Jasmine El-Gamal, founder and CEO of the Averos Strategies and former Middle East advisor at the US Department of Defense, has been listening in from London. So what did you make, firstly? What are your key takeaways from the first time, of course, that we've heard from this new Supreme Leader, Khamenei Jr., as some may be calling him, the son of the former Ayatollah Ali Khamenei?
Thank you, Becky. Just a couple of days ago, you and I were talking about whether the appointment of Khamenei, the younger son, was an act of defiance, potentially, by the Iranians. And I think what we just saw today in that speech was certainly defiance, a show of strength, a show of unity. He mentioned straight off the Iranian people, acknowledged their losses, mentioned his own losses, his own family's losses, and his wife and other family members. So trying to connect with the Iranian people who've lost loved ones and saying, but patience is a healer. And then he went on to talk to an external audience, talking about the Gulf states, how Iran wants relations with the Gulf neighbors. They've always had good relations, but warning them that the presence of these American military bases on their territories is going to continue to be a problem with them. He mentioned something that has been sort of a sore point for the Gulf recently, which is saying the Americans, their presence is not safety for you. They don't care about you. So why do you want to have these bases, implying that question? Why do you want to continue having those bases on your territory? So really, giving us a sense that they are going to continue this fight. He said, we promise to keep this flag standing, which is the true flag of the resistance, and thanking the resistance, the proxies around the region for what they've been doing as well. So those are just some of the key points, I think, that are worth mentioning.
No, very good. And let's just remind our viewers, this was not a video message even. This was a statement read out on state media. He spoke to the deaths of his father, his mother, his wife, and others. And he spoke and said, I coped through this with, as he described it, patience. Patience is a healer, he said. And he said, we will, and I paraphrase here, revenge the blood of all martyrs, especially our children. And he spoke very specifically to the attack on the school at the beginning of this war that killed 175 people, and many of those were children. That was a direct message, along with other messages, but I sense that was a direct message to the US president. An investigation, of course, ongoing into that incident and whether indeed it was a US Tomahawk which took that school out. Jasmine.
That's right. He mentioned the school bombing. He said they will receive the necessary help. They should be compensated for their losses. And if they are not compensated for their losses, meaning the families of the victims, then we will target facilities that belong to the enemy as well. He said we will continue to target those military bases. He wants to keep the Strait of Hormuz closed. He basically, Becky, I think this is a reaffirmation of the fact that far from responding to Donald Trump's call for unconditional surrender, that this is a reaffirmation and an insistence on the fact that they are going to continue fighting, they are going to continue resisting. They will not give those Gulf states any reprieve as long as they have those US military bases on their soil. He mentioned Quds Day, which is the upcoming, I believe, on Sunday, of course, which is a sort of celebration that was enacted after the first Ayatollah Khomeini in 1979, after he came to power, reaffirming the Iranian support for the resistance for Palestine, for Jerusalem, which is Al-Quds. So he mentioned that again and sort of framed his speech within that umbrella of resistance, I suppose. So, interesting to see how the American president will respond now, because this was certainly an escalation, not just verbally, not just a direct message to the US president, but a threat of continued action as well.
Yeah.